As we already know, all fractions can be added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided. Since addition and subtraction of fractions is the same, we'll explain that first. Look at this column divided into 20 equal boxes. If we cover 5 of them in red and 8 of them in blue, what would be the fraction of boxes shaded? Firstly, we know that in red, the fraction is 5 over 20, which is 1 over 4, and in blue, the fraction is 8 over 20, which 2 over 5. If we add each shaded box, we will get 13, which will be a fraction of 13 over 20. What we can see from this explanation is that when the denominator of the two fractions is the same, we can add the numerators together to find the sum fraction. This concept is the same for subtraction. However, what happens when the denominator is different? Let's say we wanted to add a half to a third. As we explained, the first thing we need to do is make the denominators equal. This means that we need to find what is known as a common denominator. The simplest common denominator of two numbers is simply just the lowest common multiple of those numbers, which would be 6. Therefore, we need to convert both a half and a third into a fraction, which have 6 as their denominator. For a half, we would just multiply both numbers by 3, which gives us 3 over 6. For a third, we would multiply both numbers by 2, which gives us 2 over 6, and now, the addition process is much easier. 2 plus 3 is 5, and therefore, our fraction becomes 5 over 6. Now, let's say we wanted to subtract 6 over 8 from 1/16. Well, once again, we need to find a common denominator. Since 16 is the lowest common multiple, we will start there. We first convert 6 over 8, which will be 12 over 16. And since 1/16 already has 16 as a denominator, we can leave it. 12 minus 1 gives us 11. So therefore, our answer becomes 11 over 16. If we wanted to add or subtract mixed numbers, again, the idea is the same. However, we would have to start by converting the mixed number into an improper fraction first. Once we do that, we then follow the same principles we discussed, and then in the end, we should remember to convert the final answer back into a mixed number when completed. Next up, we need to discuss multiplication of fractions. Let's look at this column, which is divided into 10 equal boxes. One box is shaded, making it a fraction of 1 over 10. If we wanted to multiply that fraction by 3, we would simply multiply that one box by 3, which would give us 3 boxes, and therefore the fraction now being 3 over 10. What about if we wanted to multiply two fractions, like 1/3 and 1/4? Once again, we start with a single column. 1/3 of this column would mean we cut this column into 3 pieces and shade one of these pieces, while 1/4 means we should cut 4 equal pieces and shade one. What we can notice is that the original column has now been divided into 12 equal squares, and only one of them is shaded with both colors. So therefore, our final answer becomes 1 over 12. This concept is the simple rule of multiplication of fractions where you multiply the numerators together, then the denominators, then simplify where possible. Now with division, though it is similar, it has a different approach to it. What division simply means is finding how many dividers there are in the dividing number. For example, 6 divided by 3 is asking how many 3's there are in 6, and we know that it is 2. Similarly, if wanted to say 5 divided by 1/3, we are saying how many thirds are in 5. Once again, we need to take a column and find a third of it, which would look like this. If we wanted to find how many thirds there are in 5, we would simply make 5 of these thirds. Now, since a third was just one box, we just need to count the number of total boxes, and now we can find that there are 15 boxes, and 15 is our final answer. Similarly, what if we wanted to find 4 divided by 2/3? Again, we would make a column of 2/3, and find how many of these there are in 4, by making 4 of these. What we can tell is that 6 of these 2 squared shapes can fit into this column, making that our final answer. If we break down those 2 answers, what we can find is that dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal, which is the simple rule of division. So, when we are asked to divide fractions, we are really just multiplying by a reciprocal. Don't forget that integers are also fractions over 1, so its reciprocal would be 1 over that number.